Good morning and good afternoon. This is Financial Literacy 101. Now, I really want to talk to you about Executive Order 13958 on establishing the President's Advisory 1776 Commission. This executive order was signed by Donald J. Trump on November 2nd of this year. Now, this executive order is not getting any notoriety, but it's something that every Black person, every foundational Black American absolutely needs to read verbatim. I told someone, a friend of mine, and also I told my brother last night that, regardless of what it is, I'm non-political, and that I didn't vote for either party because they didn't offer foundational Black America any tangibles, any reparations. But I also said, I wouldn't mind, because I don't care, right, to replace one racist president for another racist president. Because now you're hearing that Black Lives Matter movement, you are seeing other Black organizations now are trying to solicit President-elect Biden and Harris because we brought home the vote as a people. Not me, not you, some of you, brought home the presidency to these two candidates. And so everybody's now looking for tangibles. It's kind of like, how do you give away your vote and then after you give away your vote, you ask for something? See, this is what I was talking about the whole time about your vote is your bargaining chip. Your vote is a power position play. See, I don't play the game if I don't know what I'm going to win. I don't play the game if I don't know what I'm going to win. See, some of us as African-American, Black, foundational Black America, Moors, Nubian people, however you want to label yourself, we went out and voted in droves. We went out and we bust bussy at certain polls. We danced and we did the electric slide at all these voting booths because we wanted to get the racist Donald Trump out of office. But if you notice, nobody was talking about the racist Joe Biden. Have you noticed that? They didn't care about the 1994 crime bill, the 1986 anti-drug bill. No one cared that targeted majority of the African-American community. And also the truancy law with Kamala Harris, locking up our mothers and aunts and grandmothers and so forth. No one cared about that. And I told somebody, Donald Trump is probably the craziest president that would sign reparations. But with this particular executive order, Donald Trump is blowing up the spot. And I hope that some of you have your analytical, critical thinking caps on when we go over this executive order, because this is huge. This is the next big thing since the Hindenburg. It is, because this is a very dangerous document. And I want everybody to go out and read this, because I know a lot of people, they like to be entertained. They don't like to, read. They don't like to talk. But this is the one thing, man, especially if you're Black, you got to read this thing here. So I'm not going to prep you guys. I'm not going to go on Law's tangent. I'm just going to read it. We're going to break this down. We're going to deconstruct this thing, because this is crazy. For someone who to be, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Anyway, so Executive Order on establishing the President's Advisory 1776 Commission, November 2nd, 2020. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, and in order to better enable a rising generation to understand history and principles of the founding of the United States in 1776, and through this form a more perfect union, it is hereby ordered as follows. Section 1, purpose. The American founding envisioned a political order in harmony with the design of the laws of nature and of nature's God, seeing the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as embodied and sanctioned by the natural law and its traditions. Okay. The formation of a republic. Okay, first and foremost, let's understand we don't live in a democracy. We don't live in a democracy. We live in a republic. Okay. So when people talk about we live in a democracy, show me in the Constitution where the word democracy is listed one time. It isn't. It isn't. We live in a republic. Let me continue. I want to make sure everybody sees this. The formation of a republic around these principles marked a clear departure from previous forms of government. And this is whitehouse.gov. Okay. There's no off-brand site. This is whitehouse.gov. Securing rights through a form of government that derives its legitimate power from the consent of the governed. This is a republic. You see what I'm talking about? Right here, ladies and gentlemen. A government that derives its legitimate power from the consent of the governed. Now, throughout its national life, our republic's exploration of the full meaning of these principles has led through the ratification of a constitution, a civil war, and the abolishment of slavery. This is what Donald Trump signed. I'm going to continue. You like, where are you getting at? I'm going to continue. Reconstruction and a series of domestic crises and world conflicts. Those events establish a clear historical record of an exceptional nation dedicated to those ideas and ideals of its founding. Okay? We're building on it. Against this history in recent years, a series of polemics grounding in poor scholarship has vilified our founders and our founding. Despite the virtues and accomplishments of this nation, despite the virtues and accomplishments of this nation, many students are now taught in school to hate their own country and to believe that the men and women who built it were not heroes. Who built this country? Who built this country? Black people. Black people. I heard somebody say, oh, well, the Chinese helped build this country. No. We already dug all the railroads. Okay, we already dug all with the pipes and beams and those huge nails. African Americans, aka foundational Black Americans, are the ones who built this country. There's really no argument in that, but people like to overlook that. So he's saying the heroes. I'm going to continue because it's going to build on itself. And, he's not making this a racial thing, but it's very racial. It's very, very racial. Let me continue. He said to believe that the men and women who built were not heroes, but rather villains. He's talking about Black people. Because people look at us as villains. We built this country, and they look at Black people as villains. We're thugs, we're criminals, and if we're not that, we got a lot of money, we sell drugs, or we play sports, or we do things of that nature. This radicalized view of American history lacks perspective. It lacks perspective. Like, let's look at this a little bit deeper. Obscures virtues, twists motives, and ignores distorts facts and magnifies flaws. Resulting in the truth being concealed. Listen to this. Resulting in the truth being concealed and history disfigured. This is an executive order, 13958. Donald Trump signed this on November 2nd, 2020. I can't believe it. Failing to identify, challenge, and correct this distorted perspective could fray and ultimately erase the bonds that knit our country and culture together. So he's saying for those people out there who's not acknowledging that Black people built this country and then we are looked upon as criminals, that the perspective is distorted. That's okay. Because you're saying this is nothing, he's just talking. This is nothing, he's just talking. I'm going to get there. And again, I'm not a Trump supporter. I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I didn't rally for Donald Trump. I'm non-political until I see tangibles. The recent attacks on our founding have highlighted America's history related to race. Related to race. I'm right here. These one-sided and divisive accounts too often ignore or fail to properly honor and recollect the great legacy of the American national experience. Our country's violent and successful efforts to shake off the curse of slavery, and to use the lessons of that struggle to guide our work toward equal rights for all citizens in the present. Now, the only thing I have a problem is the word citizens. That means that you actually allege yourself to a corporation, which is America, which if you're a natural born person of this land, then you're indigenous to this land, like foundational Black Americans, dating all the way back to the year 1526, not 1619. Holler at your boy. Viewing America as an irredeemable and systematically racist country account for the extraordinary role of the great heroes of the American movement against slavery and for civil rights. Listen to this. The racist country cannot account for the extraordinary role of the great heroes of the American movement against slavery and for civil rights. A great more endeavor that from Abraham Lincoln, which we understand that Abraham Lincoln, he was still for slavery. He just couldn't win the battle and join the Union. So that's why he released the slaves. But of course, Martin Luther King Jr. was marked by religious fellowship, goodwill, generosity of heart, and emphasis on our shared principles and an inclusive vision of the future. Okay. As these heroes demonstrated, the path to a renewed and confident national unity is through a rediscovery of a shared identity rooted in our founding principles. A loss of national confidence in these principles would placing rising generation in jeopardy of a crippling self-doubt that could cause them to abandon faith in the common story that binds us to one another across our differences. I'm still scratching my head that Donald Trump signed this. Without our common faith in the equal right of every individual, American to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, authoritative visions of government and society could become increasingly alluring alternatives to self-government based on the consent of the people. Wow. Alternatives to self-government based on the consent of the people. What he is saying here, quite frankly, is that people in this country, we don't have the power. We don't have power. That's what he's saying. Because we live in a republic. Okay? We live in a republic. Let me help you out. You have to you have to really deconstruct this document. This is powerful. Let me help you out. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. Republic. A state in which supreme power is held by the people and their elected representatives, and which has an elected or nominated president rather than a monarch. So the question would be, what's a democracy? Democracy. A system of government by the whole population or all the eligible members of a state, typically through elected representative, or eligible members. Are we grasping the difference of a democracy and a republic? A state governed by democracy or Democrats control the organization or group by the majority of its members. Let me go back. I want to keep this in mind. I'm gonna continue. Don't worry. A system of government of the whole population or about eligible or all the eligible members of the state. Mass incarceration took away most of the black vote for black men. Point out. Now, a republic, a state in which supreme power is held by the people and their elected representatives, and which has an elected or nominated president than a monarch. In the U.S. Constitution, ladies and gentlemen, there is no democracy. It's only a republic. Let me continue. Thus, it is necessary to provide America's young people access to what is generally inspiring and unifying in our history, as well as to the lessons imparted by the American experience about overcoming great national challenges. This is what makes possible to informed and honest patriotism that is essentially for a successful republic. Electoral college. I'll stop right there. A restoration of American education grounded in the principles of our founding that is accurate, honest, unifying, inspiring, and ennobling must ultimately succeed at the local level. Parents and local school boards must empower to achieve greater choice and variety in curriculum at the state and local levels. The role of the federal government is to protect and preserve state and local control over the curriculum, program of instructions, administration, and personal education institutions, schools, and school systems. Indeed, this is why my administration rejects the Common Core curriculum and all efforts to have the federal government impose a national curriculum or national standards in education. What is he saying? What is he saying? He's saying that we, the people, are being controlled. We're being manipulated by the federal government. And I go back to what a citizen is. A citizen who pledge allegiance to the flag. See, when I get deep like this, it goes over some people's head, but you don't understand what this document is really saying. So me and my brother were talking about this last night, and we are literally shocked that nothing has happened to Donald Trump yet, which I don't want nothing to happen to the man at all. I'm not for all of the violence and death and all that. But this is a very powerful document because when I read earlier, he is saying paying honor to African Americans, the ones who built this country. He is saying we as the people of these United States of America don't have power. That you always hear people say we live in a democracy, meaning that the government controls what we do and say. Have you noticed that during every election term, people become very radical? People break away from family. You lose friends. There's fights. There's deaths because of what mass media projects. Because you're being, and don't brainwashed, you're being influenced. Because if you look at MSNBC and CNN, they talk bad about Donald Trump. You look at Fox, they talk bad about Joe Biden. No one reads anymore, so it's easy to fool a people. What is the name of that book by George Orwell, 1984? Well before its time. The government plays on the emotions of people. Let me continue. This is powerful. Rigorous participation in local government has always been America's laboratory of liberty and key to what makes us exceptional. The best way to preserve the story of America's founding principle is to live in it, action by local communities, reasserting control of how children receive patriotic education in their school. Now, the President's Advisory of 1776 Commission. Within 120 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Education shall establish in the Department of Education and the President's Advisory to better enable a rising generation to understand the history and principles of the founding of the United States in 1776 and to strive to form a more perfect union. He's saying put a spotlight on history and the forms of slavery and what we have done to Black people. The 1776 Commission shall be composed of not more than 20 members who shall be appointed by the President. Members shall serve for a term of 2 years and shall not be removed except for inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance. The 1776 Commission may include individuals from outside the federal government with relative experience or subject matter expertise. This is talking about those people who deal with Moorish history. Even some Hotep hustlers may be a part of the board. Excuse my English. The 1770 Commission also includes the following ex officio members of the such senior officials as those members may designate. Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of the Interior, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Secretary of Education, Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy, and the Assistant to the President for Intergovernmental Affairs. The 1776 Commission shall produce a report for the President within 1 year of the date of this order, which shall be publicly disseminated regarding the core principles of the American founding and how these principles may be understood to further enjoyment of the blessing of liberty and to promote our striving to form a more perfect union. The Commission may solicit statesmen and contributions from intellectual and cultural figures in addition to the views of the Commission members. Advise and offer recommendations to the President of the United States. Federal government plans to celebrate the 250th anniversary of American independence and coordinate with relevant external stakeholders of their plans. Facilitate the development and implementation of the President's 1776 award to recognize student knowledge of the American founding, including knowledge about the founders and the Declaration of Independence, the Constitutional Convention, and the great soldiers and battles of the American Revolutionary War. Advise executive departments and agencies with regard to their efforts to ensure patriotic education, meaning the presentation of the history of the American founding and foundational principles, the examination of how the United States has grown closer to those principles throughout its history, and the explanation of why commitment to Americans' aspiration is beneficial and justified. It is provided to the public at national parks, battlefields, monuments, museums, installation, landmarks, cemeteries, and other places important to the American Revolution and the American founding as appropriate and consistent with applicable laws. I'm going to skip down to this one. Facilitate and advise upon and promote other activities, support public knowledge and patriotic education on the American Revolution and the American founding as appropriate and consistent with applicable laws. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to stop right there to show you this is by Donald Trump. And I want to put focus on something. Why would he do this? Anybody, why would he do this? See, this is the part that I really want you to home in on. Why would he say the American founding envisioned a political order in harmony with the design of the laws of nature and nature's God? Why would he write that? Why would he sign this document with that in it? What is the laws of nature? And nature, like, let's look into this. All right, we got what republic is. We know that we live in a republic, or really, let's look into this. The laws of nature and of nature's God entitle the United States to independence. Men are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Congress appeals to the supreme judge of the world for the rectify of our intentions. Jefferson has argued that all people, he sees people as white males. I didn't put this in here. He sees people as white males have a natural right granted to them by God to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I didn't put this in here. What are the natural laws of God? The law of nature, which is nothing else than the participation of the eternal law in the rational creature, thus comprises those precepts that humankind is able to formulate, namely, the preservation of one's own good, the fulfillment of those inclinations which nature has taught all animals, and the pursuit of happiness. Seeing the rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is embodied and sanctioned by natural law and its traditions. Throughout its natural life, our republic's exploration, he capitalized our republics, all the full meaning of these principles has led it through ratification of Constitution, okay, Civil War, and the abolish of slavery, Reconstruction, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, that's a Reconstruction era, and a series of domestic crises and world conflicts. You know, a lot of people that I've spoken to, which was only like 2 people, They believe something's going to happen here. They believe something's going to happen here. When you look at this document, he's revealing things in this that you guys simply may not understand, right? And I'm not trying to call anyone unintelligent, but this is very powerful. Viewing America as an irredeemable and systematically racist country. He is saying that America is racist. He is saying America is racist. The president of the United States in 2020 is saying that America is racist. The white supremacist that's in the White House signed this document on November 2nd, 2020, and said that this is a racist country. He said viewing America as a systematically racist country, and then it says cannot account for the extraordinary role of the great heroes of the American movement against slavery and for civil rights. Why in the hell is this in here? What does this mean? He is saying that America is racist, that it cannot account for the extraordinary role of the great heroes of the American movement against slavery and for civil rights. Wow. Then what's important here, let me go back. Let me find my spot. It says here, the one-sided and divisive accounts too often ignore or fail to properly honor and recollect the great legacy of the American national experience, our country's violent and successful efforts to shake off the curse of slavery. This is a racially motivated document by Donald Trump. He signed it. I don't care who wrote it. He signed it. He's acknowledging that this is a racist country, one. He's acknowledging that black people built this country, two. And three, give honor. This is the white supremacists in the White House, we call them, right? And again, for you guys that's viewing in, I'm not a Donald Trump supporter. I'm just reading the document. You and I are just reading the document. He says here, our country's violent and successful effort to shake off the curse of slavery and to use the lessons of that struggle to guide our work toward equal rights for all citizens in the present. Let's look it up. How many times is the word slave in here? 3 times. And then it says, listen to this. Listen to this. Extraordinary role of the great heroes of the American movement against slavery. Let me go back. Let me look up the word built. Let me look up the word built. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Against this history, in recent years, a series of grounded in poor scholarship has vilified our founders and our founding. Despite the virtues and accomplishments of this nation, many students are now taught in school to hate their own country and believe that the men and women who built it were not heroes. Some people are going to say that he's referring to white people. Okay. Because he did not name foundational Black Americans. Okay. But then he says, who built it were not heroes, but rather villains. This radicalized view of America's history lacks perspective, obscures virtues, twists motives, ignores or distorts facts, and magnifies laws, resulting in the truth being concealed and history being disfigured. Have you ever guys seen when I've showed up the different types of inventions that Black people have made? And we understand that before our people was part of the transatlantic slave trade, that when the Europeans went over to Africa, not just Egypt, everybody like to put focus on Egypt, that Black people were not living, Africans were not living in huts. They were not living in caves. When the Moors traveled the world, not only did they show Europeans how to build actual structures to live in instead of in caves and underground, they also showed them how to construct sewer systems. Let me put something up here. 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 Give me 1 second, family. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'll try to get this document in here. Give me 1 second. It won't let me show you. Let me see if I can pop this up. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Here we go. Take this over here. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to make sure that you guys can see this. Make sure that you guys can see this. Give me 1 second. This is phenomenal. So a lot of people don't like to believe that African Americans did anything for this country. They never give us honor, which the document is saying give us honor. The heroes who built this country. It goes more far back than that, than 1776. Okay, it goes further back. It goes farther back than 1445, when a Portuguese pope actually started slavery. You should look into that as well. So when we're looking at this document right here, right, I'm trying to blow this up. Give me 1 second. Trying to blow this up. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. Give me a second. As you can tell, I'm having some difficulties. It's not doing what I wanted to do. It's not doing what I wanted to do. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, family. Let me go into read mode. Let's see if that works. Trying to blow it up for a lot of you guys to actually see what the hell is going on. Now, this is an old document. Black inventors and their inventions. Paper, Africans. Chess, Africans. Medicine, Africans. Civilization, Africans. A lot of people are, oh, the Mayans created the first civilization. Do you read your history? Chess, the first form of chess where there were pieces on one board, 16 squares, 16 pieces. The pieces now today, they mostly resemble what? England, knights and kings and queens and all of that stuff, right? But again, this is a part of Africans, which translates into African American, because we're descendants of Africans, stolen history. Rotary engine. Mazda gets credit for that, right? But no. Andrew J. Beard. Disposable syringe. Corn planter. Like the list goes on and on and on of all the contributions we made to this country. But we don't get honor. So this Executive Order 13958, signed on November 2nd, 2020 by Donald Trump, is very, very eye-opening. The gas mask, Gerda A. Morgan, one of my favorites. The lock, W.A. Martin. Fire extinguisher, Tom G. Marshall. The fountain pen, W.P. Purvis. Cellular phone, Henry Simpson. Auto air brake, Granville T. Woods. Look what this one man did. Granville T. Woods invented the telephone transmitter, the electric cutoff switch, the relay instruments, the telephone system, the electromechanic brake, electronic railway system, the roller coaster. Paul E. Williams created the helicopter. We don't get credit for none of this. A lot of you have never seen this document. A lot of you never knew of some of this. Ice cream, August Jackson. The guided missile, Otis Boykin. Now I believe Otis Boykin actually worked for, was it NASA or IBM? Don't quote me. What am I getting at? That this is a very dangerous document for Donald Trump to actually sign. Because this is going to open up a lot of things. It says here, American inventor, engineer. His inventions include improved electrical resistors used in computing, missile guidance, and pacemakers. Let's see here. He's famous for guided missiles. He has 26 patents in his name. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of you are not familiar with this information. So when I look at the men and women who built this country, we're looked at not as heroes, but as villains. He's talking about Black people. And everything in this document, he has the word slave or slavery 3 times. Why is this document about education, right? Executive order on establishing the President's Advisory 1776 Commission. Why is this so pertinent? Why is this so important? So a lot of times people would say we live in a democracy. We actually live in a republic, according to the Constitution. Power to the people. Long live the republic. Let me see what some of you guys are saying. Let me see what some of you guys are saying. I know a lot of you guys have a lot of great input. Let me see. Let's see. We got Broad John. Good afternoon. Ashley Hawkins in the room. We got Reg in the room. Howdy Doody one. I guess isn't better than secondary education. She doesn't have a good track record. Okay. He signed a document the day before the election and offered no tangibles of how it would help ADOS founding fathers. Let's see. It says revolution and constitution are dog whistles. Now that has a really good point. That sun is shining in really brightly. Give me a second. That is absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct. But see, the perspective here is giving honor to a group of people that has never in any sort of legislation as far as, because here's the thing, HR 40. Let's talk about HR 40, right? Oh, let's study slavery and the effect that it had on African Americans and their, distance and percentage and gap of the wealth gap, right? The distance and the amount of money that we don't have as African Americans, as a people. It's a study. Like if I look up HR 40, let me show you this bull crap. HR 40. This is a very different document, right? Very different document. This is what you call a nothing burger, okay? And this thing was written over and over again. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Let me blow it up because it's a bunch of bull crap, okay? It's a bunch of bull crap. Give me 1 second. All right. Commission to study, okay? Commission to study and develop reparation proposals for African American Act. It's a study to develop proposals, not to give, not to execute, to propose reparations. This has been in effect for a very long time. This bill establishes a commission to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans. The commission shall examine slavery and discrimination in the colonies in the United States from 1619 to the present and recommended appropriated remedies. Among other requirements, the commission shall identify the role of federal and state governments in supporting the institution of slavery, forms of discrimination in the public and private sector against freed slaves and their descendants, and lingering negative effects of slavery on living African Americans in society. This is what I call a nothing burger. This is a bill to have a commission to study in order to develop proposals. Nothing. It's nothing. It's zero. Nada. Zilch. Donut. Infinity on top of nothing on top of infinity on top of nothing. That document there is nothing, but when you see, they're trying to pass this through Congress. They're trying to pass this through Congress. The HR 40 bill. Look at this right here. Look at this right here. They're trying to pass this through Congress. And again, I'm on congress.gov. I'm not on some little, side websites I done found to speak to my narrative and my rant. Introduced. Has went nowhere. But when you sign an executive order, it's done, finito, in action. So I agree with our brother right here, Howdy Doody. He said it offers no tangibles. It sure doesn't. But I can tell you this. The difference between HR 40 is that it has to go through the Senate and the House, and then the president has to sign into law. Then the commission has to be built. Then it has to develop proposals. This executive order is already going into paying honor to the people who built this country and the recognition of slavery, which no other president has ever done. So, in my opinion, it totally wipes away H.R. 40. H.R. 40 is nothing. This puts a spotlight on slavery and what occurred to our ancestors, African Americans. Now, on the document, it has 1619 on H.R. 40. Let me help you guys out, because sometimes some people believe that I speak out both sides of my neck. Okay. Let me just go to a reputable source that a lot of people are not aware of. Look at this. Before 1619, there was 1526. The mystery of the first enslaved Africans and what became the United States of America. Oh, in 1619, 19 people in Jamestown, Virginia came. No, there was 100 enslaved Africans that went to, I believe, South Carolina and Georgia. And when they say, why did African Americans, why did Black people, why did Africans never fight back? There's plenty of revolutions and revolts that we have done over the course of time. Not just him. It says right here, within weeks, this is Washington Post. Within weeks, the subjugated revolt then vanished. So if you read this story, okay, blow it up for you guys. I want to make sure you see everything I see. The country is marking the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first enslaved Africans to the English colony of Jamestown. The significance of their arrival cannot be overstated. From the moment on where slavery existed in a colony that became the United States in an unending chain until the passage of the 13th Amendment nearly 250 years later. But those 20 odd Negroes were not the first enslaved Africans to set foot on the continent of the U.S. This is Washington Post. I don't make these things up. So we celebrate 1619. The 1619 project, no, 1526. Excuse me. It says they were not the first enslaved Africans to set foot on the continent of the U.S. That happened 93 years earlier when Spanish explorers brought 100 slaves with them to a doomed settlement in what is now South Carolina and or Georgia, right on the border, right in the middle, before they had border lines. Within weeks of their arrival, those enslaved Africans revolted, then they vanished. They started killing mofos, like they did in Haiti in revolt of 1804. This is where foundational Black Americans get the year 1526. And so now I want to give you guys a little more context about it, because this is what you need to understand. The first slaves in America was back in 1526, not 1619, 93 years prior to 1619. So when we're talking about organizations like ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves, I'm not talking about the organization. I'm talking about the American Descendants of Slaves part, but I'm also talking about Foundation of Black Americans. And this is where the foundation started. In order to understand their story, it's important to know who brought them there and who else was enslaved. By the early 1520s, nearly all the indigenous people in the Spanish colony of Hispaniola were dead. Enslaved Africans were brought in to replace them in the backbreaking search for gold that was getting harder and harder to find. Lucas Vasquez de Algola, a government functionary in the colony, wanted to start a settlement of his own, and he got permission from the King and Queen of Spain to send scouts sailing up the east coast of what is now the United States to find a good spot, according to historian and anthropologist Guy E. Cameron. That permission came with the specific instruction that they build friendly relationship with any indigenous people they encountered. The scouts returned with details of the coastline of what is now South Carolina and Georgia, and sometimes else 70 indigenous people they had abducted and enslaved. Now, I'm not going to read this whole story, but you guys can find this just look up before 1619, there was 1526. Just look it up. You don't have to take my word for it. I'm just giving you guys the information. Because, again, it goes back to what? This document here. He's giving honor to African Americans of building this country. We're not going to even talk about the many inventions and patents that were stolen by the white European hybrids. We're not going to talk about that. I don't want this to be too race-baited or race-hated, okay? But I actually want to put that this is a spotlight, that this is the executive order. You don't need to do nothing else to executive order. Once the president signed it, it's law. It's law. Now, let me show you how twisted some laws, some procedures in our country is. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to look up executive orders. That's all I'm going to do. I can show you how this may go down. That's why I don't think there's a big thing. What do executive orders do? An executive order is a means of issuing federal directives in the United States used by the President of the United States that manages operation of the federal government. The legal or constitutional basis for executive order has multiple sources. So this is a federally funded program that he's going to push down to the states. The key here is what I looked up last night was, what is an executive order and who can overturn it? Right? Congress. But Congress, and the reason why I say it like that, watch this. Congress may try to overturn an executive order by passing a bill that blocks it. They could try to pass a bill that blocks it, but the president can veto the bill. Now, what's going to happen is when Donald Trump, whenever he decides to leave office, and I said that very seriously, whenever he decides to leave office, Congress goes going, they may even try it now, but they're going to try to block this with a bill. But he's going to veto it. Now, Joe Biden's not going to veto it. He's going to let it be passed. Then it says here, but the president can veto the bill. Then it says Congress would then need to override the veto to pass the bill. What? Also, the Supreme Court has declared an executive order unconstitutional. So basically, the only thing that needs to happen is once he vetoes the bill to be blocked by Congress, Congress then can override the veto to pass the bill, as long as they get approval from the Supreme Court to say it's unconstitutional. And basically, he is saying that we are essentially a democracy that are fooling and manipulating the people and not giving honor to those people who built this country, which were African Americans. Let somebody tell me that the Chinese built this damn country. Let somebody tell me that the Irish came over here and built this country. Who you think built those big slave plantations, those big houses? We have to understand when the explorers, the enslavers came over to this country, that they built they had slaves with them. We're talking about 1526. During that time, the Moorish people already 100 years prior to that already traveled the globe and were showing people how to build structures. Did you know that the Ugandan, this is just a fun fact off the side. Did you know that the Ugandan people came up with C-section procedures? A white British doctor actually put spotlight to that. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to show you this because I think it's very intriguing. I think it's very like Donald Trump. He's just very unpredictable. It's crazy. I don't know what to say. I'm literally dumbfounded. I'm just like, what? He said this in an executive order and signed it? This is what he did. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, this is I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I think that wow, I'm speechless. I just wanted to show you guys that I don't really have nothing to say. I'm so just like dumbfounded. I'm just like, he signed this document. And here's the thing: is out of nowhere, and like let's see, how did you said he signed it the day before the election, or was it the day after the election? Did I read that right? Did I read that right? Yeah, the day before the election. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you just tuning in, please just rewind the tape back, and we went over this document, which is the executive order of establishing the President's Advisory 1776 Commission. Some people will say he's really giving honor to white people who he believed that built this country. Okay. Then I want people to explain certain sentences of abolition of slavery and Reconstruction, radicalized American history, lacks perspective. Because here's the thing. This is why this is important. Let me just finish with this. If this was about white people, that white people built this country, then why write this document? Some people say, well, he's talking about Confederates, that they built this country. Well, if the first slaves were, which nationally is known as 1619, but we know that it's 1526, and slaves are the one who built the infrastructure of this country. We're as black people, we out of pocket like 14, 15 trillion. That's how much we built this nation up on wealth, 14 to 15 trillion dollars. If white people built this country, then why do this document? Who is saying that white people didn't build this country? Well, black people, because we know that they didn't build this country, right? They didn't have the technology that Africans had. They did not have the technology of building sewer systems. They didn't have the technology of building a hut out of mud. They didn't have that technology. Just, you know what? Don't listen to me, man. I'll tell you to look up Moorish history and how they traveled the world prior to any European, and that some of those indigenous people were black in America back in 1526 as they brought other black people. If I were to do that for you, I'd be up here all day. I just wanted to bring a spotlight to the executive order and what it really means to me, and probably give you guys some good insight. Okay. So again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Executive Order 13958. 13958. Executive Order 13958. And this is whitehouse.gov and your boy, Donald J. Trump. He did it again. He's unpredictable. That's why I told people. To me, it really doesn't matter who the president is, but replacing one white supremacist with another white supremacist, we might as well keep the white supremacists we know. Oh, he raised it. Listen, one guy is overt, the other one's covert. It doesn't matter. This is Financial Literacy 101. Learn your government and your country and your constitution, and that we live according to the Constitution, a republic, but we actually live in a democracy, which that's not the way that this country was actually built. Look at how that the American flag was actually first created by a black woman. But I digress, because everybody say, oh, everything is black. We was the first damn people. So we did a lot of things before other people came on the map, okay? Because then I'll go down the road with something else and I'll get lost. You know me, guys, my mind. This one hurt me. This one, what I mean is that me and my brother was on the phone for like almost 2 hours talking about this document and what it means. Like, yo, he signed this? You got to read this. Again, this is Executive Order 13958. I don't just want you to read it. I want you to dissect it, analyze it, put it on a magnifying glass. Like, why did he write this? All right, guys. Y'all have a good day. This is awesome.